I'm Jenny from American Hydroponics, and what we're going to talk about today is what happens during our seminars. We offer 2-day seminars that really teach you kind of everything you need to know to get growing. Here we are. If you're familiar in our webinars, we've been here before. This is our greenhouse that we just completed. It's not even a year old. We partner with the Humboldt County Office of Education. They grow here year-round, and they pay students. They offer jobs to students. They have classrooms here. They offer a CSA to provide local greens to community members. I'm just going to show you, for example, look at this basil right here. This is beautiful basil right here. Look at these roots coming off of it. See these? We've got some lettuce here too. This is just a little lettuce, not quite ready for harvest. The basil looks like it should be ready for harvest probably this coming week. And look at the roots. Look at these nice, beautiful white roots coming off this lettuce and how nice this lettuce looks. This is what they grow year-round here. And they can provide year-round produce to their community. That's what we're all about at AmHydro, is bringing food production back to your community. And at our seminars, we really teach you how to do that. All of our seminars are actually held in greenhouses that are customers, just like this. We offer these in different locations throughout the year, but I really encourage you, if you're interested in learning to grow hydroponically, it's a great time. You meet great people during it, and you've got a wealth of knowledge available. So we're going to go over really what happens in the seminars on this webinar. It's going to be about 25 minutes long, maybe something like that. You'll get this whole recording sent to you, as well as these slides that you'll be seeing. You'll get those as well too. So right now, if you have any questions at all, just feel free to type those right into the comments section, and someone will feed me those questions, and I'll try and address all of those as they come in, or as many as I can as they come in. Can everybody see? Will you check and see both screens? Okay, good. So everybody sees the Get Growing screen that's right in front of you. So now let's talk a little bit about what are some of the benefits of taking a seminar. Why would you spend your money, your hard-earned money, and the time and expense to go to 2 days to learn how to do one of these seminars? Well, there's a lot of benefits to it, right? Some of the biggest is you're learning from people. Everybody here at AmHydro who's presenting, the people here at AmHydro, everybody who works here, we have over 100 years of growing experience between us. We've all been growing. We currently grow. So we know the advancements in the industry. We know the problems that you have as a grower. We know, your system's right here, maybe what might go wrong or what might go right, or some of the common problems. We are actually growers. We aren't just sitting in our office behind a spreadsheet or behind a computer. We're out in the greenhouse. We're growing. We're giving to our customers. So the other thing is, when you come to these seminars, you're learning from people who are in the industry. It's a small industry, I get that, and there's a lot of advancements happening right now. There's a lot of knowledge happening right now. And by coming to the seminars, you get to learn from people who are in the midst of this quickly emerging industry. And I mean, it's coming around really fast. You start to see more and more of it in the news. And we're plugged into all of that. The other great thing about coming to one of the benefits of coming to one of these seminars is you get to network with other new growers. And we always encourage each other to exchange emails, exchange contact information, so that you can learn from each other. You can experience, you can kind of ask each other, hey, how did you do this? Or what did you do here? A lot of really helpful, great information has been exchanged between people that way. It really creates a great network for you, and it really creates a great community feeling. Another benefit is the hands-on experience. So we're going to go through, and you're going to take a look at the agenda in just a minute. But what's really great is that you get some classroom time, so you get to learn all the basics, but you actually get to spend the afternoons working in the greenhouse, just like this one. You get to seed, you get to transplant, you get to harvest, you get to pack, you get to actually work with and touch. It's not just conceptual anymore, it's actually physical, tangible. You get to actually work in the greenhouse, whichever greenhouse we hold it in, whichever customer. And you also, the other really great thing that's been super helpful is you get to hear from and speak to not just the owners of the greenhouse, the customers who have been in the same exact boat as you. A few years ago, maybe a year ago, they were looking at scratching their heads, saying, how do I really start this business? And then you get to hear their trials, their tribulations, what's really worked for them and what doesn't work for them. And they're right there. And we also generally include in that a live interview with another customer who's recently started within the last couple of months. So let me just look there. There's a couple of questions. Will there be a seminar in California after Utah? There will be. We don't have the exact date of it right yet, but it'll be sometime in August in California. We're in Humboldt County, which is just about an hour and a half south of the border with Oregon. A little bit tough to get to, but we're right here, and yes, there will be one. Well, a question here is, can we use fish for the nitrate supply and sell the produce as organic? That'll come in. Those type of questions we'll try and address a little bit later when we talk about the nutrient. So the agenda. So what I have up here, you're going to take a look. These are just 2 sample agendas. These are pretty standard of what the days might look like. For example, we always start at 8 or 8:30, something like that, to get a real jump on the day. It turns out to be a pretty long day, a lot of information. You go home a little bit brain dead at the end of the day, but it's a great time. So these are the samples of what the day might look like. Each of the sessions are about 45 minutes to an hour plus long. We provide lunch for you. Of course, we provide snacks. In the afternoon, we actually go to the greenhouse. And usually on the first afternoon, we walk through the greenhouse and we explain what all the different things are. So as you're kind of looking behind me, you see a lot of different equipment and stuff back there. And you might wonder, is it necessary? Do you really need it? What's the purpose of it? Can we substitute out something else besides that? We walk through all of those questions with you. Another great thing we tried at the last seminar that worked really well is in the greenhouse, we actually had breakout sessions because there's a couple of different ways to grow hydroponically. And we have the fortune of being in this greenhouse where we have an NFT section here, and then over in the smaller greenhouse over here, we have vine crops where we grow cucumbers, tomatoes, beans. I think that's what they have growing now. And so we spend a little bit of time, just a short session, kind of little breakout sessions on NFT growing, vine crop growing, and then we do touch on cannabis because a lot of people automatically assume that if you're growing hydroponically, you're growing cannabis, which is not a fair assumption at all because 90% of our growers are all leafy green vegetable growers, produce growers. We always have lots of time for you to talk to any of the professionals that are there, whether it's about your unique situation or something specific that you want to talk about. There's a lot of one-on-one time, a lot of time when you can really talk to them. Day 2 then comes back. We're in the classroom in the morning, and that's when we get a little deeper. We go into some real plant production and nutrient management and stuff like that. And then in the afternoon is generally, depending on how we set it up with the grower who is hosting us, either the first day or the second day, we'll actually be seeding, transplanting, harvesting, and packing for them. And then, again, spending a lot of time in the greenhouse and getting familiar with that. So these are, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what each of the different topics are that we offered in our last seminar. Now, all of our seminars are not identical. We really tailor them to the people who sign up. We generally try and find out what are you interested in, and we try and address all of those things. Now, in general, this is the sort of stuff we cover. So we have the industry overview, and really what that is it starts you right from the beginning. Hydroponics, while you may have just been recently hearing about it, is really hundreds of years old, right? It really came up, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon were technically a hydroponic garden. So it goes, the idea of hydroponics has been around a long time. There's been huge advancements in the last couple of years. But we go through the history of hydroponics for you. We go through what really are the basic components of hydroponics, what different types of hydroponics are out there. There's ponds, there's aquaponics that refers back to the question that someone asked about fish nitrate, and we do towers. A lot of people are interested in these towers and ask us a lot of questions about those. There's, of course, like I said, vine crops and NFTs. So we kind of go through all of those different types of hydroponics so you can understand what might work best for you. We go through the commercial aspects of hydroponics. What does that look like as opposed to a small business? And then we kind of go through some of the founders and what their different philosophies are in hydroponics. It starts you off with a really nice broad base of hydroponics so you don't get kind of keyholed into one particular area of hydroponics and think that that's all there is. Our next is how to build your hydroponic business. And we call that really the scalability of your business. And what that includes is really what are the benefits of hydroponics. So you know, if you start small, which we always encourage somebody to start small before they go really big, how do you start small? What does it mean to start small? What's the best way to start small? And what types of crops can you grow? Leafy greens, vine crops, anything like that. So that's what we do when we talk about the scalability. We spend quite a bit of time on that, and there usually is a lot of questions because as we get these interviews with our growers, the live interviews, every one of them so far that we've talked to will say without a doubt the best advice they received was starting small and growing into it from there. So how do you do that? What does it mean to start small and grow into it the most efficient way?
Any seminar schedule for the East Coast?
Oh, the seminar schedule for the East Coast someone just asked about. We have one coming up in the fall. We generally will hold a seminar in the fall in New Jersey. We don't have a date for that one yet. Like I said, our next one that we have is California in August. Well, let me back up. The one that we have in April is April 27th and 28th in Utah. Then we have one in California. Then in the fall, we go back to the East Coast, and we'll have all that information for you. So then we talk about, after that, we go into general plant growth. And this gets a little more detailed, right? What does a plant really need to grow? That way you know what's critical. If your plant isn't performing and growing like you expect it to, why is that? You can't know that if you don't know everything that your plant needs to grow. What's the basic plant biology? What does plant need? What do plants need to grow? They need nutrients, they need lights. We go through all of that. What kind of lighting do you need? And really, what's the payoff? If you look, if you can see in this greenhouse here, there really isn't very much lighting. And so we have some lighting over the propagation, and we have lighting over the nursery, the little tiny, but we don't put any lighting over the finishing channel because the cost of lights, one, is crazy how expensive they are. And then you're running all of that electricity year round, and that's not necessarily, you don't get a payoff on that. But how much light do plants need? That's something we go over with you. Nutrient. What nutrients do plants need? Regardless of whether you use AmHydro's nutrient or you use someone else, they're always in an A&D package. Why is that? Why can't they all come together in one package? And we go through that with you, what the plants need, what to look for if something happens. VPD, vapor pressure deficit. What's the ideal and what does that really mean? It's super, super critical for successful growth of a plant. But what really does VPD mean, and what's a VPD chart? We go through all of that. And again, I mean, obviously I've got my notes over the side here, but you have all of the information, so you can either take notes right then and there on it, or seeing what the actual slides are. Like this is a VPD. This right here is a VPD chart. So you can kind of look at that, and you can take these books, of course, home with you. You need to look at that, and it reminds you what's the importance of it. Next, we go over what are the successful components of a greenhouse, and we kind of talked about that, where we actually go into a greenhouse and we look and say, these silver things that go across the top here, what are they for and what do they do? Well, those are shade screens, and they're pretty important. They do two things. They hold heat in the winter, and they keep the sun out in the summer, right? You don't want your greenhouse getting too hot. The ideal greenhouse stays the same temperature year round. That's the beauty of indoor growing. That's the beauty of growing with a controlled environment agriculture. So we walk you through a greenhouse like this, and we show you what the vents do, we show you what the lighting is, we show you what the environmental control is, what the nutrient doser is, what the heater is, what's the importance of a CO2 generator. Those sorts of things. And we kind of walk you through really what are all the different aspects of all the systems. We have gutters over there for our vine crops, but you could just as easily have buckets there. So we go through all the different components of a greenhouse, so you know when you're looking to start your business what you need in a greenhouse. And the next thing is hydroponic plant production. And that hydroponic plant production, again, we go over that. This starts to get much more detailed into the plants. What kind of crops? So that noise you just heard, again, talking about the greenhouse, that's the vents opening because the environmental control has said, it's getting a little too humid in here. We need to open up the vents. So That's what an environmental controller does, is it tells the greenhouse how to operate to maintain that consistent temperature. So now going back to hydroponic plant production, right? We talk about crops. What are the ideal crops? What are crops that might be good in your area? What are the systems, whether it's an NFT system or buckets? Like I said, our vine crops, they could be a gutter, they could be buckets. What can you grow in a vine crop as opposed to growing an NFT? We go through all of those type of questions and how to produce in a commercial sense, in a viable business sense, how to produce each one of those types of crops. All right, let's go on. The next thing is nutrient management. So the nutrient management piece is really critical. If you don't understand what kind of minerals your plant needs, and again, all of these plants here, we've got probably, I'm just looking around here real quick and saying probably 8 different varieties growing on the same system right here. They're all using one nutrient. And if you don't understand and know what that nutrient is, what kind of macro and micro minerals are needed to produce the healthiest crops, or if you look at a plant and you see something's wrong with it, we help you identify maybe what nutrient is missing from your plant. pH is another critical important. And why is pH so important? To keep that optimal balance so your plants can take up all of the nutrient they need to really grow. So nutrient management is a pretty critical part to understand if you're going to go into some kind of hydroponic business like this. Food safety, this is a super popular one. So the federal government has recently come down with what's called the FASMA, which is the Food Safety Modernization Act. It's super confusing, as is most everything that the government tries to regulate, and also pretty vague. And if you don't do it right, you can get in trouble without any real clear guidelines on how to do it correctly. So we have a whole section on the Food Safety Modernization Act that helps you understand for your particular farm what might be necessary and what you need to watch for and what you need to pay attention to adhere to the FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act. That's something we've just added to our seminars because it's going to become a more and more important part of any farm, whether it's hydroponic or soil farm. So then there's the hands-on work in the greenhouse. And I think anybody you ever talk to that has gone to a seminar, whether it be ours or any of the other ones out there, will tell you one of the most important aspects of the seminar, and the part they probably got the most from, was actually hands-on work. Now they're starting to understand all of the stuff they've been learning in the mornings, and they're starting to be able to see it in action, and maybe they can see a plant that has a little bit of brown around the edges, and they can look and say, ooh, that looks like a nutrient deficiency. Or maybe that looks like a fungal disease that we just talked about earlier that morning. So the hands-on work in the greenhouse really becomes super critical, and one of the best parts of the system. The other part on here that we didn't really go over is we really spend quite a bit of time, and it's pretty interesting on how to start an actual hydroponic business. What are the costs you need to consider for it? What kind of revenue can you expect from it? Depending on where you are in the world, right? American Hydroponics has shipped to over 60 countries in the last 4 years. So depending on where you are in the world, you can imagine that revenue could vary pretty greatly. If you are, for example, located where we are in California, especially if you happen to be in the San Francisco Bay Area, which puts a pretty high premium on good quality food, you can command a lot more for your produce than you can for someone, let's say maybe down in one of the island nations where it's more of a necessity for them to have locally grown food, and maybe there's not as much disposable income, and they're looking at it more as a necessity than a luxury item. So we help you understand in your area maybe how to figure out what your revenue stream might look like. So, and we give you a bunch of tools for that. We give you some really practical advice of what you need to look for to start your business. What are the expenses that are involved? You know, obviously, you know, if we just pull up this little guy here, this has some pretty key components. Obviously, you have a growing medium, which is this little guy right here. We use Oasis. You have the seed that you have to even grow what you're going to grow. And then the roots, those are the nutrients, right? So regardless of what you're growing, has those key components as costs. And you need to figure out, look, we figured out for you exactly how much that costs. And then there's other things like, of course, the lighting and the electricity and the propane, or however you decide to heat your greenhouse. Some of our growers in some northern states heat their greenhouse with a wood burning. So, but all of those have costs associated with them. So we spend a lot of time on the business aspect. Okay, so now let's get back to the hands-on work in the greenhouse. So this is just from our last seminar. This is actually right here in this greenhouse right over there. They were actually working on harvesting for the CSA program, you know, the plants, and they're putting together a salad mix, and you can see it's just the beginning of the salad mix right there that they're growing. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to just email us at info@amhydro.com, and we'll be sure and answer all of those. Thanks.